As human beings grow, we come to understand ourselves more. We find a purpose, we become stronger, and our experiences shape our interests and opinions. This is a very dramatic and overly formal way of saying that my video game tastes have changed substantially as I've grown into the man I am today. When I was younger, I was into simple games where I could win and feel good about myself. I didn't like fighting games, strategy games, or games that would require any kind of skill or critical thinking. I wasn't interested in gripping stories, clever mechanics, or creative presentation. I just wanted to win. As a grown man, I've come to appreciate these genres more and more. Okay, fighting games aren't necessarily for me, but I respect them and the people who are dedicated enough to become good at them. But the genre that I've always had a surface level knowledge of is turn-based RPGs and JRPGs. I played the Pokémon series to death as a kid, and I still do now as an adult fueled by nostalgia and a desperate desire to relive my childhood. But the Pokémon series is pretty much baby's first RPG. I knew of the Final Fantasy series and other turn-based games, but they never really appealed to me. However, everything changed this year when I finally experienced the masterpiece that is Persona 5 Royal. I'd never played a Persona game before this, and the only other turn-based RPG I'd played was Final Fantasy X, which I got pretty bored of quite quickly. Please don't kill me, I'll get around to finishing it eventually, I promise. The only things I knew about Persona 5 Royal before playing were that the UI and overall presentation were very stylish and that the music slapped. I tried it, and about 107 hours later, I'd finished the game and gotten the Platinum Trophy. It's safe to say that I enjoyed my time with the game. But why am I telling you this? Well, Persona 5 Royal is coming to Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, PC, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 5 on the day this video is uploaded. Hopefully. I thought I'd use the occasion as an excuse to talk about why I love Persona 5 Royal so much, and maybe persuade some people who previously wouldn't have cared about the game to give it a try. A quick warning, I'll be including light spoilers in this video, but I won't spoil anything that'll ruin your experience if you decide to play the game after watching this. Before talking about Persona 5 Royal, I think it would be helpful to have a brief overview of the history of the Persona series. Now, although the Persona series has 6 mainline games and a ton of spin-offs, Persona itself is actually a sub-series of the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. The first Persona game, Revelations Persona, was released for the PlayStation in 1996. Since then, there have been several mainline entries in the series, expanded versions of these games, and even spin-offs taking place within the same timelines. Persona 5 was announced in 2013 and later released in 2016 for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. In a similar fashion to previous games in the Persona series, Persona 5 has seen sequels, spin-offs, and enhanced versions released since its success. But that's just the Common Council estate Persona 5. What about Big Daddy Royal?
We want more money and better working conditions.
Is this some sort of peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand?
Persona 5 Royal is an enhanced version of Persona 5, similar to how Persona 4 Golden is an enhanced version of the original Persona 4. But what enables a game to climb the socio-economic ladder and become royalty? I'm glad you asked. Persona 5 Royal includes 2 new confidants in Yoshizawa and Dr. Maruki, a 3rd semester containing new story content in the form of a new palace to infiltrate, additional music which is also amazing, the Thieves' Den, a feature that allows you to access bonus content anytime, a new area on the map, Kichijoji, where you can meet confidants and do things like play darts and billiards, visit a jazz club, and visit a temple. All of these activities have in-game bonuses like increasing SP and enhancing the effect of baton pass in battle, new personas, armour, weapons, and other in-game items, 2 new story endings, and a whole bunch more. If you have the choice between playing Persona 5 or Royal, just play Royal. It's got more content and a ton of quality of life changes that make the overall experience better. This is going to be a long section of the video, so much so that I'm going to have to split this section into subsections to make sure that I'm covering everything that I want to. The story of Persona 5 begins with the main character being caught by the police and interrogated about the mysterious Phantom Thieves of Hearts, a group of people able to trigger a change of heart in corrupt individuals and make them atone for their evil ways. The main character, who I called Obama in my playthrough, but I'll just call him Joker for the rest of this, explains how he became a Phantom Thief and his actions over the last 6 months. It turns out that Joker is on probation for saving a woman being harassed by a man who later framed Joker for assault. After this, Joker is sent to a new school in Tokyo and now lives in the back room of a coffee shop owned by a friend of his family, Sojiro Sakura. Upon joining this new school, Joker gains the ability to enter the metaverse. I hate that this word is now associated with Mark Zuckerberg and NFTs. An alternate world where the twisted desires of people manifest and are given physical form. If someone's desires are strong enough, they are able to establish their own domain within the metaverse called a palace. By infiltrating a palace and stealing the treasure held within, you're able to change the person's heart and cause them to feel remorse for their previous actions. After doing this a few times, the Phantom Thieves become a hot topic among the Japanese public. with many people supporting their vigilante justice, but others are less than supportive as they don't believe that anyone should be able to forcefully cause a change in someone's cognition without their consent. The Phantom Thieves are able to fight their way through palaces in the metaverse by calling upon their personas, manifestations of a person's will to rebel and take revenge against those who have wronged them. They appear in a fashion similar to Stan's in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In Persona 5, party members awaken to their personas by forming a contract with their shadow self and tearing off their mask. After their specific character events have been completed, party members are able to evolve their personas into more powerful forms. Even though a large portion of the game focuses on being supernatural vigilantes looking to change the hearts of awful people, an equally large portion of the game focuses on your life as a student. And let me tell you, it's just as good. The character writing is top of the line, each confidant feels different, and you interact with them all in different ways. Each confidant gives you a bonus in the game which can help you in battle, let you purchase new items, or improve your social stats, so there's plenty of incentive to hang out with your friends. Throughout your playthrough you have quite a big impact on the lives of those around you, and it makes them feel like actual people. Some of my personal favourites include helping Sojiro connect with his adoptive daughter who's become a paranoid and anxious shut-in after the death of her biological mother, being there for Hifumi when she finds out that her mother's been using her to become famous by fixing her professional shogi matches and convincing her to continue playing despite the setbacks, and helping Makoto embrace the outside world instead of drowning in her academic work due to the expectations she thinks society has of her. And I know I pretty much spoiled 3 of the special character missions there, but there are 16 more confidants to get to know and help, so it's not like you're going knowing everything about everyone. Overall, the game is written really well, and it's an interesting concept which is enhanced by its incredible character writing. One of the most noticeable things about Persona 5 Royal is the style. Literally everything the game does is flashy, from messaging your friends to navigating the menus. Even Masahiro Sakurai of Smash Bros fame pointed out that the Persona 5 Royal interface is about as stylish as you can get. I know it can be a bit overwhelming when you start the game, but you adjust to it quite quickly. Everything about the game looks incredible. The game is presented in a way that makes it feel like you're playing through an anime. The anime cutscenes are also done really well, being produced by Production IG and Domerica. Some of the projects they've been involved with previously include Attack on Titan and Haikyuu. These cutscenes are integrated well due to the style of the rest of the game. Swapping between anime cutscenes and in-game cutscenes isn't as jarring as you'd expect. I never thought a turn-based RPG would make choosing an attack or purchasing medicine more fun, but somehow Persona 5 Royal manages. When playing games, I normally get annoyed by cutscenes that are just comprised of static PNGs and text boxes, but Persona manages to make even these enjoyable. The addition of a variety of character expressions, high quality voice acting, music and in-game models and backgrounds pulls a lot of weight in setting the atmosphere. Somehow these sequences were able to keep my attention when they'd normally fall flat in other games. The sheer amount of voice acting that went into this game goes a long way to make the game more consistent in its delivery of information, and I wholeheartedly appreciate that. As I mentioned earlier, Persona 5 Royal's gameplay can be split into 2 sections, Phantom Thievery and Student Shenanigans. I'll go through Phantom Thievery first. As the Phantom Thieves, you infiltrate palaces in order to steal someone's treasure and trigger a change of heart. Palaces are large dungeons that you explore while avoiding or fighting enemies, collecting items like will seeds, and learning about what led the palace owner to develop their twisted desires in the first place. When an enemy spots you, the security level of the palace increases, meaning that enemies are more vigilant and will pursue you further when you're spotted. If they catch you, you begin the battle at a disadvantage as you're surrounded by enemies. But on the other hand, if you sneak up on an enemy and jump them, you begin the battle on equal footing, meaning that your turns are dictated by speed rather than all of the enemies getting to attack first. It's a good way to incentivize the player to embrace stealth and go about infiltrating palaces like an actual thief rather than running in all guns blazing, which you can do, but it might be a bit more difficult. The turn-based combat operates on an attribute system with the regular status conditions you'd expect like sleep and confusion. The attributes are as follows: fire, electric, ice, wind, psychokinesis, nuclear, bless, curse, almighty, physical, and gun.
濃厚な魚介だしにたっぷりのネギと一さじのニンニクそして銃
Each shadow you fight has strengths and weaknesses. When you hit a shadow with an attribute that it's vulnerable to, it gets knocked down. And once all the enemies have been knocked down, you're able to hold them at gunpoint and negotiate. You can choose to have the shadow join you and become another persona usable by Joker, you can extort them for money or rare items, or just kill them. There's a wide variety of ways that you can violate the Geneva Convention after your enemies have surrendered, so have some fun. Once you secure your infiltration route and reach the treasure, you go back into the real world and send a calling card to the palace owner. This change in their cognition causes their treasure to manifest and you'll be able to go into the palace one more time to steal it. You finally confront the palace owner's shadow self and battle them before finally obtaining the treasure. When you're in between palaces, you're able to enter mementos, which acts as the collective palace of the general public as their desires aren't distorted enough to generate individual palaces. This is a procedurally generated dungeon that you traverse in order to change people's hearts on a smaller scale, as you get requests from the public to help them with things like loan sharks, abusive parents, and workplace bullies. As you complete requests, the public's opinion on the Phantom Thieves improves. The bottom line is, the Phantom Thievery portion of the game is very well designed and has become one of the best turn-based RPGs I have ever played. I know that after explaining the supernatural vigilante side of things, living life as a student seems pretty mundane, but you're wrong. The student shenanigans are just as good, if not better than the Phantom Thievery. These sections take place in the real world, where you have to live life as a normal student to avoid arousing suspicions while you're on probation. You're able to hang out with your confidants, which in turn provides bonuses in battle, so there's a reason to go to the gym with Ryuji or help Haru tend to the school garden. You have 5 social stats which can be boosted by certain activities in the real world. These are knowledge, increased through activities like studying and completing crossword puzzles. Guts, which you can improve by hitting the gym and doing things like taking the Big Bang Burger challenge. Kindness, you can always get kinder by working in the flower shop and listening to people while working at a bar. Proficiency, which can be increased through crafting infiltration tools. And charm, which is increased by things like using the bathhouse and reading books about art with Yusuke. These stats affect how you're seen by people in the real world and can allow you to access certain confidant events. For example, the quest where you help Sojiro connect with his adoptive daughter requires a high kindness level, and helping Takemi test out experimental medicine requires a high level of guts. The main feature that makes the balancing student shenanigans with the Phantom Thievery so fun is the calendar system. While playing the game, the date is always visible. Certain activities take up more time than others because they increase stats, so the player is forced to prioritise activities because they have a finite amount of time. Throughout the story, you set deadlines that you need to infiltrate a palace and steal its treasure by, otherwise the palace owner will do something in the real world like getting you expelled from school, suing you, or forcing one of the Phantom Thieves into an arranged marriage. These deadlines do a good job of giving the palace infiltrations a sense of urgency. There's this sense of dread in the back of your mind if you take a day off during the infiltration, because you know there's something more important to do. I had to choose between spending my time increasing my social stats, hanging out with friends, grinding in mementos to level up and fulfill requests, and infiltrating the current palace. It makes you schedule your time more carefully because choosing one activity actively takes away from the time you have available to do other things. You can choose to blast through the palace within the first few days to give yourself time to do other things, or you can balance your time to make sure that you always have the gear suited to the current level of enemies you're facing. If anything, this made me more conscious of how I spend my time and how I prioritise things. If I'm able to balance my time properly in a video game, surely I can do it in real life. I was wrong because I spent all of my time playing this game instead of doing important shit like studying or getting fresh air. The soundtrack for the game was composed by Shoji Meguro, Toshiki Konishi, Kenichi Tsuchiya, Atsushi Kitajo, and Ryota Kazuka, and the lyrics were performed by Lin Inaizumi. I apologise for probably butchering the pronunciation of every name there. The music for this game is easily one of the best soundtracks I've heard in my entire life. It's not just good for a video game soundtrack, it's legitimately good music. There's a song for every situation in the game, and the songs with lyrics don't distract you from the gameplay or any story information being presented. I genuinely listen to it on a regular basis. If you take my advice and decide to play Persona 5 Royal, first of all, thank you for that. And secondly, if you enjoy it and want more Persona 5, there are plenty of games to sink your teeth into. Some games directly connected to Persona 5 Royal are... Persona 5 Strikers is a hack and slash set 4 months after the events of the original Persona 5, not Royal, but don't let that put you off. It's available on PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch and was released February 2020 in Japan and 1 year later everywhere else. The game follows the Phantom Thieves on a summer road trip solving mysteries across Japan. It's a departure from the traditional turn-based RPGs of the Persona series, but previous spin-offs have ventured into different genres before, so it's not too unexpected. Also, just a quick side note, it's odd that Strikers was released on Switch even though the mainline series has been exclusive to PlayStation for years. Why release a sequel on a console that can't play the original game? It's fine now because of the upcoming ports, but it was pretty weird at the time of release. Funnily enough, this isn't the only Persona spin-off dancing game, and I kind of love that. In Persona 5 Dancing in the Starlight, you play as the Phantom Thieves and dance to both original and remixed versions of the songs from Persona 5. It's really surprising to me that there have been 3 Persona dancing spin-off games. Persona 4 Dancing All Night was released in 2015, Persona 5 Dancing in the Starlight was released in 2018, and Persona 3 Dancing in the Moonlight was also released in 2018. It's a little bit weird, but I'm here for it. And the funniest thing about this is that the story of Dancing in the Starlight is actually canon to the Persona timeline. As far as I know, all of the spin-off games are canon unless otherwise stated by Atlus. Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth is another one of the weird spin-offs that was released on a console that couldn't play the original game it links to. But what makes it even weirder is the fact that it's only available on 3DS. Persona Q2 is a sequel to the original Persona Q, and is a dungeon crawler RPG in which the Phantom Thieves are trapped in a movie. During the game they meet up with characters from other Persona mainline titles, so it's a nice little tie-in if you've already played the other Persona games. If you still want more Persona 5, there are other ways to experience the story of the game or other adventures with the Phantom Thieves. There's a manga retelling of the story of Persona 5 that is currently releasing. I picked up a couple volumes last month which contributed to me wanting to make this video. A side story that takes place during the events of Persona 5 is available as a 3-part manga called Persona 5 Memento's Mission. There are anime series for both Persona 5 and Persona 4 available on Crunchyroll. As far as I'm aware, they just retell the story of the game, but for some reason I'm willing to re-experience the same story over and over. If you've finished Persona 5 Royal and want a similar experience with a new cast of characters, I'd recommend giving the other mainline Persona games a try. As of right now, Persona 4 Golden is only available on PC and PS Vita, and Persona 3 is only available on PS2 and PSP. However, both Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Portable are being ported to PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch and PC in January 2023. So there are definitely more convenient ways of playing these games coming soon. Ever since getting a real job and having disposable income, I've been buying more games than I can play. Because of this, at the start of the year, I decided I was going to finish 30 games by the end of the year. I'd just pick a random game that I felt like playing and play it to the end and put it back on the shelf without feeling the shame of leaving it unfinished. Why am I mentioning this? Well, game number 13 was Jump Force, which was a fucking nightmare to play through, and as of writing this script, it is the worst game I've played this year by far. But I'm glad that I played it, because surviving to the end of the hot mess that is Jump Force made diving into Persona 5 Royal that much more enjoyable. However, starting Persona 5 Royal at this time was a double-edged sword, because while it was great to experience it directly after a terrible game, it was unwise to become obsessed with it shortly before a pretty important exam. To be honest, I forgot about the exam until about a week and a half before I was meant to sit it, but then I spent time in Persona studying for exams, and I realised that I should probably be doing it for real as well. After finishing my exam, I went straight back to the game to make up for lost time. My obsession with this game got so bad that I was cancelling real life plans to keep playing. I'd call my friends like, I already have plans with Ryuji to get some ramen in Shibuya. I'm glad I finished the game when I did, because I think my friends were close to holding an intervention for me. I wasn't sure how I wanted to end this video. I spent the better part of 2 months playing Persona 5 Royal and I loved every second of it. If anything, I was sad that my time with the game was over, but after doing the research for this video, I can't wait to play the spin-off games and read the manga. So if anything I've said about the game has interested you, I'd 100% recommend giving it a go. And if you're hesitant about trying it, the game is going to be available on Xbox Game Pass the same day as the other platforms. So if you find that it's not for you, you won't have wasted money on buying the full game. And if you decide to play the game because of this video, please don't be mad at me when you get to the Okumura boss battle, he's just a bastard. While making this video, I had to think back on my personal experience with the game quite a lot, and after this, I think I can confidently say that Persona 5 Royal is my favourite game of all time.